21st century, from Silicon Valley startup to corporate titan. In the early 21st century, two idealistic founders scraped together funds from friends and family to launch a small tech company out of a garage. From these simple beginnings, the RDA grew rapidly over a few decades, becoming hugely successful and attracting millions of investors. By the mid-22nd century, it had become the oldest and largest megacorporation of its time, with 263 million shareholders and power in every area of society. Early on, the RDA became famous for building massive projects on Earth. One major achievement was creating a worldwide Maglev train network, a super-fast transit system that could transport people across continents in hours. The project was incredibly successful, but with a dark twist. The special material that powered these trains was a rare mineral called Unobtanium, which the RDA would later hunt for across the galaxy at any cost. With almost unlimited money and political power, the RDA looked to space next. It built hundreds of factories in orbit around Earth's moon, on Mars, and in the asteroid belt. These space factories made the corporation even wealthier, but they also dumped toxic chemicals back onto Earth. Chemical rain from these orbital factories poisoned the planet's surface. The RDA also led early efforts to transform Mars and other worlds for human settlement, making itself the main force behind humanity's expansion into space. By the year 2100, Earth was falling apart environmentally and socially, and the RDA used this disaster to its advantage. Governments became dependent on the RDA's technology and energy. Any groups that opposed the RDA, from human rights organizations to environmental groups, were paid off or destroyed. Basically, the RDA became like its own government, free to chase profits without anyone watching over it. As Earth fell into chaos, the RDA convinced people that colonizing other worlds was humanity's only chance to survive. If you're enjoying this deep dive so far, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Expansion era. First steps to Pandora. Pre-2150. Pandora, a lush moon orbiting the gas giant planet Polyphemus in the Alpha Centauri star system, was first spotted by human astronomers in the late 21st century. By the 2080s, unmanned space missions reached Pandora's surface. In 2084, remote-controlled landing probes touched down and returned data about the moon's rich ecosystem. These early discoveries proved Pandora was filled with amazing resources, especially unobtanium. Around 2119, large-scale colonization of Pandora began. The RDA had sole rights to establish a base on Pandora. The RDA's first base was Hell's Gate, a heavily defended mining and science colony built in the early 2120s. Building this base was a huge task. Just constructing the ISV Venture Star spaceship for trips between Earth and Pandora almost made the company go bankrupt in the late 21st century. But the risk paid off big time. Unobtanium turned out to be incredibly valuable, worth $20 million per kilogram in raw form and double when processed. It became the most precious material in human space. The RDA had exclusive rights to it, which let them control the market. This monopoly was so complete that illegal markets formed for replacement technologies, reportedly even funding terrorist groups on Earth. Just more damage from the RDA's ruthless campaign to control the energy market. Once money started pouring in, the RDA expanded its operations on Pandora quickly. Forests were cut down, mines were dug, and factories and labs appeared behind Hell's Gate's security wall. By the 2130s, the RDA had many sites across Pandora mining not just unobtanium, but also wood, minerals, and biological samples for new medicines, cosmetics, and biotechnology. During this time, humans made first contact with Pandora's natives, the Na'vi. At first, their relationship was careful but friendly. The RDA's leaders knew that peaceful cooperation would make mining easier, so they tried to be diplomatic. RDA scientist Dr. Grace Augustine played a key role in this early contact. In the 2140s, Grace set up a school for Na'vi children, teaching them English and human science while learning about their culture. The RDA even created the revolutionary Avatar program to connect the two species. Originally designed by Dr. Cordell Lovecraft to help human workers survive better in Pandora's environment, the Avatar technology was changed to help communication and build trust. Scientists like Dr. Augustine grew hybrid human Na'vi bodies that humans could remotely control, allowing them to look like Na'vi when meeting with the clans. However, tensions were building. The RDA's presence on Pandora caused pollution, destroyed forests, and disrupted what had been a perfect natural world. One event in 2152 completely destroyed the fragile peace. A young Omaticaya woman named Silwanin, who was Grace's student and the daughter of the clan's spiritual leader, became furious when RDA bulldozers knocked down sacred trees. Silwanin and other young Na'vi attacked an RDA bulldozer in protest and destroyed it. They went to Grace's remote school for refuge, but RDA security soldiers chased them and shot at the unarmed Na'vi children, killing Silwanin right in front of her younger sister, Neytiri. This tragedy changed everything. The school was shut down immediately, and the Omaticaya leaders cut off all contact with humans, kicking Grace and the Avatar researchers out of their territory. From that moment on, the RDA was seen as a violent invader, not as a welcome guest. Through the late 2140s and early 2150s, there were fights as Na'vi groups tried to stop RDA mining operations. The RDA tried one last desperate plan called the Ambassador Program. In secret, security officers kidnapped young Na'vi from isolated clans and raised them in a facility to work as translators and negotiators for the RDA. One nomadic clan, the Sarentu, was completely wiped out by SecOps soldiers so their children could be stolen for this project. The kidnapped Na'vi were mistreated and brainwashed to reject their own culture. By 2154, any pretense of peace was gone. Pandora was ready to explode into war. The First Pandoran War, 2154. That spark came with the events of Avatar, 2009, starting the First Pandoran War. By this time, Colonel Miles Quaritch, a tough ex-Marine with scars on his face, led the RDA security forces and had turned Hell's Gate into a military base. The RDA's mission had focused on one clear goal: get Pandora's Unobtanium at any cost. Unfortunately, one of the biggest deposits of this valuable mineral sat directly under the Omatikaya's home tree, a massive tree that housed Neytiri's entire clan. To the Na'vi, home tree was sacred and impossible to give up. To the RDA, it was an obstacle blocking billions of dollars worth of ore. In May 2154, Jake Sully arrived at Hell's Gate as a newly hired contractor and replacement avatar driver for his recently deceased scientist twin brother. Quaritch recruited Jake to spy on the Na'vi using the Avatar program and report back what they were planning. Jake lived among the Omaticaya as an avatar and eventually earned their trust. The RDA hoped he could convince them to move, persuading the Na'vi to leave Home Tree for their own good. But Jake started to sympathize with the Na'vi and finally told his employers the truth. The clan would never leave their home, no matter what they were offered. When negotiations failed, the RDA decided to attack. Quaritch launched a surprise operation to eliminate any chance of Na'vi resistance. First, destroy their spiritual landmarks to break their spirits, then destroy Home Tree itself. The first attack came when RDA bulldozers crushed the Na'vi's Tree of Voices, a special place where the Omaticaya connected with Awa, Pandora's living spirit. Soon after, angry Omaticaya warriors attacked another group of RDA bulldozers, killing 6 RDA workers. This was the first time humans and Na'vi actually killed each other. With Administrator Parker Selfridge's permission, the RDA sent a fleet of gunships to Home Tree. They tried one last warning. Tear gas was dropped on the Na'vi gathered in and around the giant tree, demanding they evacuate. The clan refused. So Quaritch ordered his forces to fire. RDA gunships hammered Home Tree with explosives, breaking the huge trunk and setting it on fire. Their ancient home of the Na'vi cracked and came crashing down in a massive wave of fire and ash. Speaking of fire and ash, this is just one of many videos we are releasing before the new movie launches. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Following the attack, many Omaticaya, including clan leader Etu Khan, were killed when Home Tree collapsed. The destruction was a huge psychological and spiritual blow. However, it didn't make the Na'vi give up. It made them ready to fight. Jake Sully, who had switched to the Na'vi side, decided to fight back. He gathered clans from across Pandora, 15 clans in total, creating a united Na'vi alliance to kick out the Sky People. Quaritch expected a counterattack and launched his own strike against the Tree of Souls, planning to destroy the Na'vi's spiritual center and break their will. The result was the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains. The RDA used everything they had: fleets of Scorpion gunships, a massive Dragon transport ship as their command center, squads of AMP suit robot warriors and soldiers. At first, the RDA's better weapons devastated the Na'vi fighters, but Pandora itself fought back. When Neytiri asked Awa for help, the goddess responded by sending animals to attack the RDA army. Giant hammerhead Titanotheres charged through RDA troops, packs of Viper Wolves overran soldiers, and Banshees attacked aircraft. The RDA forces were overwhelmed, their vehicles destroyed, troops scattered or killed. Colonel Quaritch was killed by Neytiri's arrows in a final battle. By the end of the fight, the invaders had lost. The Navi's victory in August 2154 led to Hell's Gate's surrender. About 90% of all humans on Pandora were forced to leave and sent back to Earth on transport ships shortly after. The First Pandoran War was over, a humiliating defeat for the RDA. Post-war retreat and recolonization, 2155 to 2168. According to expanded lore, the RDA's reaction to losing Pandora was a mix of public spin and behind-the-scenes reorganization. On Earth, the company went into damage control mode, portraying the Pandora debacle not as a corporate overreach but as a tragedy for the RDA. They claimed their employees were the victims of alien attacks, and that men like Quaritch had been martyred while trying to civilize Pandora. This propaganda painted the Navi as aggressors. The reality was swept under the rug. The structure of the RDA shifted. Parker Selfridge was removed in disgrace. A new administrator, Charles Stringer, took over Pandora Ops. Alongside him, General Francis Ardmore was appointed to command security, a sign that the RDA intended to return with more muscle and less mercy. Behind closed doors, the RDA activated contingency plans that had been set in motion before the war's end. One project was Project Phoenix, a top-secret initiative to essentially cheat death. The consciousness profiles of key SecOps soldiers, including Quaritch and his elite team, had been backed up on drives. When those soldiers were killed in action, the RDA could resurrect them in new bodies at a later date. As Hell's Gate fell in 2154, Phoenix was ramped up. The result was recoms, recombinant human Navi hybrids with the minds of veteran SecOps troops. During the years that followed their defeat, the RDA rallied support for a second invasion. By the 2160s, Earth was on the verge of collapse, with starvation, pandemics, toxic air, and resource wars plaguing the planet. Pandora came to be seen not just as an economic opportunity, but a potential new home, a lifeboat for a dying Earth. The RDA exploited this narrative to gain political backing. We must retake Pandora for the survival of our species. The RDA became Earth's extrasolar military, with tech capabilities far beyond any national defense force. The RDA started constructing and refitting a fleet of 10 massive interstellar ships, not just the old unarmed cargo ISVs, but also heavily armed warships. By 2168, the RDA was ready to strike back. A quick note on the events of Avatar, The High Ground 2022, which is considered semi-canon. The RDA returns much sooner, in 2155, and attacks from space, leading to an epic conflict where Jake actually takes the fight to orbit. The Second Pandoran War, 2169 to 2171, The Way of Water. In August 2168, the silence of Pandora's night sky was broken by the fiery re-entry of 10 RDA starships. This was a full-scale invasion and recolonization fleet. The new commander, General Ardmore, wasted no time sending out a frightening ultimatum: surrender and cooperate or be destroyed. When the RDA fleet landed, they literally burned the Earth. Several of the huge ISV ships descended directly into Pandora's atmosphere and used their engines as weapons, blasting a huge section of jungle with superheated plasma to clear a landing zone. Within minutes, dozens of square kilometers of forest were turned to smoking ash. Thousands of animals were burned alive. The scorched clearing became the foundation for the RDA's new headquarters, Bridgehead City, a colony base designed to be much bigger than the old Hell's Gate. Massive landing ships unloaded bulldozers and AMP suits, which immediately began creating a 2-mile-wide kill zone of empty land around the site to prevent Pandora's plants and animals from getting close. Bridgehead City quickly rose, built in less than a year by automated systems. Fleets of Hexbot construction drones, giant 3D printers, and spider-like assembly robots. The result was a huge fortress city, 6 miles wide, surrounded by 30 kilometers of defensive walls and packed with missile batteries. From Bridgehead, the RDA fought on two fronts: one against Pandora's environment itself, and one against the native resistance fighters. Ardmore's orders were clear: pacify the hostiles with no attempt at peaceful negotiations. The RDA invested in new weapons and vehicles specifically designed for Pandora's challenges. Project Phoenix succeeded with the first recom soldiers. Quaritch himself was brought back as a recombinant, waking up in a powerful 10-foot Navi body, but still carrying his memories and marine training. In 2169, Quaritch and a squad of recom troopers were sent to Pandora, immediately becoming Ardmore's elite special operations team. Soon after returning, RDA exploration teams encountered a giant whale-like species called Tolkun and made a discovery. Their brains produce a golden-orange liquid called amrita that can stop human aging, basically a fountain of youth. This became the single most valuable resource on Pandora, even more than Unobtanium. The RDA created a whaling fleet to hunt Tolkun at any cost. Under mercenary captains like Mick Scoresby, these whalers killed entire Tolkun groups across the oceans, taking a few liters of amrita from each and throwing away the bodies. By 2170, Pandora had become a war zone. The Na'vi resistance, led by Jake Sully and clan leaders like Tonawari of the Reef People, fought back with hit-and-run tactics. Jake organized rebel teams that sabotaged RDA supply lines, destroyed their Maglev trains, and bombed isolated bases. In response, Quaritch led a recon team hunting the Sully family, trying to end the resistance and get revenge. The battle in 2170 was a major fight. Quaritch's Sea Dragon command ship encountered Jake's family and the Metkayina. A fierce ocean battle broke out, during which Jake's oldest son Nataeum was tragically killed, but the Na'vi managed to sink the Sea Dragon. However, the war was far from over. By early 2171, the RDA still controlled Bridgehead City and many bases across Pandora. The Na'vi resistance was a constant problem, but Ardmore's strategy was slowly working. More and more humans were arriving from Earth to settle, and valuable resources were being taken despite the resistance. Pandora was slowly being forced under RDA control. Avatar Fire and Ash, 2025, what's next? Coming shortly after The Way of Water, the events of Fire and Ash will reveal another major move by the RDA, forming an alliance with a rogue Na'vi clan. The Ash People, officially called the Manquan, are a violent and aggressive Na'vi tribe living in the volcanic region of Pandora. Led by the ruthless warrior Varang, the Ash People have survived hardships. The RDA's recon unit, led by Colonel Quaritch, travels into Manquan territory to negotiate with Varang. Working under Ardmore's command, Quaritch has found a common enemy with the Ash People in his personal war against the Sully family. From the RDA perspective, the Ash People are both a useful ally and maybe a test of their divide and rule strategy. If the RDA were to arm one clan of Na'vi to fight other clans, they could sit back and let the natives weaken each other. It's possible the RDA gives Varang AMP suits or guns, training her warriors in combat tactics. In return, the Ash People may give the RDA safe passage or cooperation in the dangerous volcanic zones of Pandora, areas which may contain new resources to take advantage of. This alliance between Na'vi and the RDA marks an escalation of the conflict, one that threatens to consume all of Pandora and beyond, proving once again that the RDA will do whatever it takes to protect its interests. Expanded universe and cross-media. Beyond the films, the RDA's reach extends across video games, comics, and novels, each adding layers to the corporation's dark history. In Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, players experience the perspective of a Sarentu Na'vi, one of the abducted children from the Ambassador program, who escapes RDA captivity and joins the Resistance. Set in Pandora's western frontier during the same time frame as The Way of Water, the game reveals the depths of RDA's experimentation programs under administrators like John Mercer. The RDA's West Ops division introduces specialized units like Pyro AMPs and massive flame tanks, while the horrific Feral project shows the corporation surgically mutilating creatures like Thanators to create controllable bioweapons. This suggests an experimental weapons division willing to try anything, even splicing and altering Pandora's fauna to gain military advantage. The game also expands the RDA's organizational structure, introducing divisions like Consolidated Development, ConDev for city building, and Integrated Logistics, ILD for transport. It demonstrates how the RDA operates on multiple fronts across Pandora simultaneously while showing its limits. The western frontier is eventually repelled, proving the corporation isn't invincible despite its scale. Several comic series fill crucial gaps in the timeline. Avatar: The Next Shadow takes place soon after the 2009 film, showing Jake struggling as the new Omaticaya clan leader while dealing with remaining human dissidents at Hell's Gate who stir conflict between Na'vi clans. It demonstrates how the RDA's presence lingered like a toxin, with their technology and ideology still threatening even after their expulsion. Avatar: Adapt or Die chronicles Grace Augustine's early work in the 2130s and 2140s, revealing the tension between the RDA's scientific division and corporate interests. One storyline shows RDA pollution poisoning a Na'vi river, causing sickness among children. Grace desperately works to cure them with Na'vi help, but RDA leadership covers up the cause, highlighting the humanitarian side that could have been the corporation's legacy had it chosen cooperation over exploitation. Avatar: The High Ground, based on James Cameron's original script for a sequel, depicts the RDA returning in 2155 and attacking from space. Though considered semi-canon, it introduces General Ardmore and Administrator Stringer, showing their ruthless tactics, including threatening to nuke the Tree of Souls from orbit. The comic expands on the RDA's espionage capabilities, featuring a human traitor among Jake's allies who sabotages their resistance plans. The darkest corner of the RDA's history comes through the Ambassador Program storyline, a covert division that kidnapped Na'vi children from isolated clans and indoctrinated them to reject their culture. Commander Mercer secretly massacred the entire Sorrentu clan to steal their children for this project, though scientist Alma Cortez saved some by hiding them in cryosleep. This program reveals the RDA's willingness to commit cultural genocide alongside its environmental destruction. These expanded universe stories depict the RDA not as monolithic, but composed of individuals ranging from extremely villainous, like Mercer, to conflicted, like Cortez and Grace, showing how corporate structures can enable both atrocities and acts of conscience within the same organization. The RDA's story is far from over. From its humble Silicon Valley origins to becoming the most powerful quasi-governmental organization in human space, the Resources Development Administration embodies the darkest aspects of unchecked corporate power and colonial ambition. As we await fire and ash, one thing remains certain: the RDA will stop at nothing to claim Pandora, and the Na'vi will stop at nothing to defend it. If you'd like us to cover the RDA's expanded universe appearances in even more depth, including connections to other sci-fi universes, drop a comment below and let us know. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.